Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Practice Perfect podcast. We are very excited to be here today on a Wednesday again. It's a beautiful day where I am. I'm not sure where it is for you. I know some people in the country have had some storms, so I'm sorry if you had storm activity where you are. I hope you're okay. I hate storms. But here we are, July 2nd. We are officially in July. It's going to be a hot month, right? Maya, how are you doing in July so far?
Um, I'm almost there. Had to get my pool reset because of the bad winter, but it is reset. The pool is full. The sun is shining, and I'm
Oh,
excited. I'm excited. I'm
well,
excited.
I'm counting the days, Maya. I was looking at the calendar, and John and I are super excited to be coming to Chicago, one of our favorite
I
cities in the
know,
world. It's like it's 3 weeks, little less than 3 weeks. It's too far away. But anyway,
right?
we're
I know.
excited.
It's the big back capital of the world. Where'd you go? Well, it's the big back capital of the world. We are here. Things are fabulous. And we've got some really good things happening for today. And there she is.
Technology. Gabe's gonna edit this out, I'm sure. But I seriously like it. Just literally crashed on me. Like it just. Bleh. Anyway, back to what we're talking about. So in Chicago, I'm really excited because John and I had went there on our honeymoon, and he decided this year or this trip he was going to come with me because the Red Sox are playing the Cubs. So we'll
What
be going
better
to the
way
game.
to do that? I mean, seriously, the
Yeah,
Red Sox and the Cubs in
yeah.
one city?
I mean,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So several years ago, we were like newly married, and I knew he was a Red Sox fan, but didn't know how. It's like the movie Fever Pitch with Jimmy Fallon. He's not like that kind of fan, but but he loves the Red Sox. So I got him tickets as an anniversary gift, and like we were like really bad with money, poor people, and we couldn't go, so I had to sell the tickets. It was like we were young and stupid, right? So
Yeah.
now I have the opportunity to really take him to Wrigley Field and like show this off for him. So I'm
And you
excited to
have
go to
to,
Wrigley Field. So yeah,
I think Chicago is one of the most culturally diverse places in the world. They have so many things to do. There's so many places to go. Water Tower, the what is it? Oh, the big tower. I can't think of the name of it. One is not Willis Tower. I mean, there's so many different places to go and see and eat, and it's so good. It's not like it's terrible food. It's like everything.
oh, I
Chicago
know.
is
Yeah.
the big back capital of the world. People with big backs and big butts strut around here all the time, proud.
I love it so much, Maya. Well, I mean, today's show is going to be awesome too. Like, I can't wait to get started here because surprise alert, we have a surprise guest today, guys. We didn't announce this. This is just like you're just gonna love this. So I want to bring on our guest today. We have Mr. Cameron Llewellyn on the show today. Cameron, are you excited to be here?
I mean, I'm dancing over here, okay? I am excited. I am so
Woo!
excited. Yeah, thank you so much. Longtime viewer, second time guest. Okay. I don't have my posters up right now of you all because my wife frankly thought they were a little creepy, but I'm excited to be here and happy to get into it.
No, I
Yeah.
love it. Cameron Llewellyn is seriously like an innovator. So, I mean, I want to tell the story. Not, I mean, I think we talked about it on the last show when you were on like our previous podcast we had. But I was in a position in my life where I was just transitional in my career. And
Yeah.
for the first time ever, I decided I've never paid for a conference ticket myself. Usually I'm speaking, so I don't have to pay. And this is the first time that I paid a pretty penny for a conference ticket for myself to go to the HIMSS conference because I really wanted to like get out there and network and in the tech community, the healthcare tech community, because I wanted to see what was going on, maybe potentially find a job. I don't know. I was just in that mode. So I was on the little, I guess, the bus back from the conference to our hotel, right? And Mr. Cameron was my seatmate. We were sitting together and I just like, I'm just gonna start a conversation. We started talking, and it was just interesting where you were in your career then and then now, and then all of a sudden here we are. So we just kept in touch and had some great conversations. Yeah.
I'll tell from my perspective. She was already on the bus, and it was pretty full, and she was actually kind of sitting toward the front, and we connected immediately because I'm originally from Arkansas. Mm-hmm. And what was interesting at the time, like she said, is she was out there and she was very humble, but saying that she was kind of looking for a job, and coming from the tech space, it was a very different mode in terms of what I was thinking then, right? I was thinking about the infrastructure of how we're moving workloads versus really, claims and billing. And she starts talking, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're going to get a job. You're good. You're good. Like you know this through and through, right? You got letters on past your name. Fast forward, and I wound up, I follow her. I was liking some of her stuff, but I hadn't actually been part of this environment of looking at what really happens on the coding side, on the billing side. And when I took this job, of course, I went through, started looking at who I was connected to. And don't you know, this girl had started her own business, had over 10,000 followers, and obviously had you, Maya. So then, of course, I creeped onto your page. I sent you a message, and I was like, hey, listen, I'm really looking to work with Jennifer. I hope I get a chance to work with you. And then after that, of course, we got a chance to link at AAOE. And that was really where I understood the community, right? And essentially what you guys provide in terms of helping people who are at different stages of their careers to really understand how to grow. And I think a lot of people respond because Jennifer's story is so organic, right? It comes from a real place where she worked very hard. And then when she made that pivot into investing in herself, I don't think she's ever looked back.
Same.
No, I can't imagine working for somebody else again. I mean, I love my clients. I love the collaboration. I love the relationships I get to build, but also my own autonomy, because I've done this long enough. I've seen the holes. I've seen the things that just go wrong when you don't have a good process in place. And, so I have the experience to help people make a good process, I hope.
Yeah. And you have Maya. I want to make sure everyone knows. I just got Maya's book yesterday. I didn't have time to read it overnight. Okay, but I'm just putting that out there.
Oh my God, I need to get the book, Maya. I didn't know it's out. I saw your poll, but I had no. See, here's the deal: it's like Maya's supposed to tell me everything, but she doesn't tell me everything. So I didn't know she had a book. I'm gonna say, I'm like, I would have been the first one.
Oh, I wrote a book, Jen. I did. You forgot.
Well, maybe I was just not listening, because sometimes that happens. So anyway, I was really excited for the moment, but I'm super excited to get that book, and it's going to be talked about on the podcast very soon. We're going to talk about this book and to get it out, the word. But Cameron, you do a lot of work in an area that we talk about a lot right now, which is AI, artificial intelligence. I remember at the HIMSS conference, there was this booth that we went to, and they were doing these demonstrations. They were talking about AI, and to me, it was a new thing for me, because we all kind of know it, but in our world, coding and billing, it was kind of like the redheaded stepsister, nobody wants to talk about, just they're over here. And I just was like, I got to know more about this from the experts, right? So I sat down in the little session, and I listened to them talk about it. And to me, it was just fascinating them talking about the history of AI, how far back in history this concept goes. And of course, we've seen elements of artificial intelligence in life for a long, long time. And so it's not a surprise that it's making its way into healthcare. Is revolutionizing what healthcare can accomplish. What, in your estimation, with you, and of course, joining FLS, which is amazing, and your relationship with Comure, what is going on right now that people need to know about? The good, the bad, the ugly. What's going on with AI?
So if we can, let's jump in the way back machine. Okay. A lot of times when people say AI, and to be honest, even though I work at a company that does AI, my face starts to glaze over just slightly. Okay. Because what are we talking about, right? When we actually say AI. Now, I'm of a certain age, as possibly the slight gray in my beard can tell you. And what it used to be when I started my career in banking was really when we were talking about the documents that we need to process. So when I started in banking, I worked for this company called Cito and Associates. One of the products that they had, right, was essentially a cash management solution. So if you have a bank and the bank says, and your insurance people say, you guys can keep $250,000 in your bank. We'll insure you for that much. Okay. So guess how much money they would keep? $250,000. But if you're in one of these little small communities where literally you never go through more than like $50,000, even when it's like the Social Security checks and everything is happening, there's $200,000 that's just sitting there, right? That essentially could be used for other purposes. And so this company was like, well, hey, we're going to use an algorithm to calculate your cash flow, and then we'll tell you how much cash you can basically keep in there. So they implemented that, and now that cash could go in other interest earning accounts. Now, fast forward, right? And we started calling that machine learning document processing. Right? A mouthful. AI is way easier to say. But what are we doing? We are using a machine to learn the way that you process documents. And then based on that, developing a system that looks to reduce errors and to speed up efficiency. So AI became all the rage when ChatGPT dropped, but it was just the generative part of it. Right. To be honest, right. Like at first, even though I'm in healthcare, wasn't really thinking about it for healthcare. I was trying to write raps in the style of Eminem. Okay. Whatever. Okay. Just saying. Okay. But when I joined Athelis, right, what was really cool is to see that where healthcare is typically a laggard, we are now putting it at the forefront of the innovation when it comes to having what used to be bolted on systems behind one pane of glass, right? Whether it's the EMR, whether it's the clinical documentation, whether it's claims management, what we'll talk about, whether it's AI calling agents, all of that's behind one pane of glass. And now what does that do? Well, that means that there's a lot more efficiency that's into the system. And I think if we're ever going to get really meaningfully away from a fee-based system into value-based care, we have to have that kind of automation because we need a number of touches with the patients. We need a number of check marks on the back end. And we want people who are clinicians to feel empowered to deliver care and to not feel like they're just binded by whatever error that the insurance companies are going to throw at them, right? And I'll say this as the last thing. You'd have to be sleeping under a rock, right? If you work in billing, not to see the number of denials rising. Also, when the United Healthcare CEO was unalived, right? We all saw that.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't anecdotal, right? The payers have had AI on their side for a very long time.
Yep.
And I'm fortunate that I work for one of the companies that's really sort of pushing back and putting AI on the side of the provider.
I love it. No, and I've been seeing so many of the testimonials. I'm just so encouraged by all of these physicians that are just really taking charge of their organizations and saying, no, stop. We're in control of our own data, not you. And so I just love the whole premise behind what you guys are doing and what should happen when we see these. Now, we're here to talk about denials and rejections. We want to clear up some of the confusion on this. And, AI is doing a lot of good things, and there's a lot it can do to help with that. But let's break down, first of all, like the rejection. That is a claim is just not getting through. Like something's going on, right?
Right.
And then the denial is it was processed, but something's wrong with your data. You gave us wrong information, or we can't process what you gave us. It's just not passing our policies, right?
Sure.
So that's in general what we come across. But where practices get tripped up is they don't understand what's fixable and what shouldn't have happened in the first place.
Right.
And automation can help with that. Would you agree?
100%. So not everyone is a Jennifer McNamara or a Maya Turner, right? Like you all have a depth of knowledge where when you're keeping up with changes at CMS and OIG, you're able to put those in to a greater system of knowledge that you already have in place. But if I'm a brand new coder or a brand new biller, these aren't things that necessarily I'll be able to catch. So let's kind of break it down into a couple of spots, right? For us, our algorithm is based off an engine, right? It's got global rules and then it's got site-specific rules. Global rules, those are things that everyone should know, but that just gum up the process. So I've got fat fingers. Okay. So if I put in a pound sign, something within an address that would mess it up, the claims, bam, the insurance is kicking that back 2 seconds, right? But then there's other things that get deeper. So for instance, I work with an autism center, and they actually developed a very specialized method of care. They got it approved by insurance, but it's using an unlisted code.
Yes.
So what do you think happens?
Denials.
Denials. And the denial always comes back with the same CARC or RARC code every single time, which is to attach the patient record. Now, they put a process in place where they're collecting this and taking it, and then they're batching it and sending it back. But the problem is that they're getting denials every single day, and this is making their AR to extend. And essentially, we're looking at that AR, we're looking at that CARC code and that RARC code, and we're automatically going into the system, grabbing the patient record, and resubmitting it. Now, what's the difference? Well, a batch submission is still making your AR go longer and further, but an automatic submission, well, because AI works on Saturdays, means that you don't have that same lag. Now, I talked about the global rules, but let's talk about site specific, right? If you do things with G codes, if you do things that are specific to a discipline, and you are still getting the same CARC and RARC codes, but when you have to try to resolve those, essentially it's a manual process. One, the system learns and it's trying to figure out so that we don't have those submissions. So typically when someone starts to go onto a platform like ours, you're going to see a dramatic drop automatically in the denials. But then also you're going to see that any of the denials are also going to start to be met with automatic resubmissions. So now we're resubmitting, I think over like 95% of any sort of denial that we get. And if not, right, what we also have, and this is maybe the most popular thing, because your time is valuable. How long have you spent? If we just could go back into time, Jennifer and Maya, if we could go back into time, how much time have you spent on hold with the payer?
Oh my gosh, we have this. I don't know if you've ever heard them. Like they have this reel out there, or this like commercial with the hold music, and like there's this, like, it makes us crawl inside ourselves because it sounds just like the insurance company music. But no, I mean like hours and hours. I mean, like I have clocked one time like 40 minutes, and
Okay.
I was new then. Before I knew, you just got to give up.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you're in the office, like I started in the office, and like it's a real patient that needs this, and so like your organization's expecting you to get it done.
That's right.
So you just have to do it.
How do we solve that problem? Well,
Right.
We have domain trained AI. Now, again, I'm not expecting your audience to know what this means. Okay. If something's domain trained, it means that it's been fed data that's specific to that topic. So when ChatGPT came out, one of the things that happened, the OpenAI founder was like, hey, nobody's going to train models like this in the future. And people were like, huh? I mean, what do you mean? Because like this is working pretty well. Well, it means that, look, our AI is not necessarily going to be able to tell you who the president of the United States was at 1860, but it does know your payer. It knows your payer policy. It knows your fee schedule. And so we have an AI that's trained that calls the payer, sits on hold, gets the information. So by the time there's a human in the loop, you're able to fix that problem a lot faster. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And so that's just a couple of examples, right? Global rules to kind of do things that we should all know from OIG, CMS, site-specific rules that maybe because you deal with a certain mix of payers, and then automations that really just try to save time because, again, you guys are really valuable. But unfortunately, I feel like, billing has been one of those things that just has kind of worked and toiled in the shadows. You guys do so much in terms of being certified. You have to do so much to understand. And in some ways, it's kind of funny how you biller and coders are a little bit like translators. I have a classicist friend of mine who works in Latin, and it's hilarious when we think of translations at a macro level from ancient history, because it's like, what did they really mean? And I now, in listening to coders and billers, there's doctors and they're like sending you this, and you're like, what does he really mean? And of course, not that there's any people that would listen to this show that would do it, but some people are in the business of trying to overcode. Some people are in the business of not really knowing, so they're putting codes together that don't work. And there was a story that just came out this week where the Trump administration announced that they had cracked down on fraud on a couple of different things. And I think we're going to continue to see that. It takes money out of the system, but more importantly, right, it just impacts the care delivery pathway. And so ultimately, these systems are designed to really make sure that we have a better system of record, and also to ultimately speed up operations and efficiency.
Absolutely. I mean, and we are going to talk about that case at some point on the show because it's too big not to talk about. The numbers were staggering on how many individuals were involved in the recent takedown. So that's just insane. But that, you're right, it's going to continue. It's been continuing to happen. And like, if you've done this long enough, even just last 5 years, just following the OIG's, investigations, every time a new one comes out, I'm just like, did you not learn from the last one? Like, you think you're going to get away with this? Like, what are you thinking? It's the government. They're like everywhere. So I don't know. Anyway, but we digress. So let's talk about just operational. I think that it's about efficiency. I worked with organizations where they just wanted to keep their staff. They're just having them do stuff that they didn't need to have them do because it could be automated and like just eligibility and benefits. Like it's been automated for a very long time, but you still have people doing it manually. And I understand there is checks and balances in place, but most of the time you don't have to have real staff do that. Obviously verify things when the patient comes in, but that leaves them open to now they can have a real relationship.
That's right. Oh, we lost her.
Yeah, I think it's a technical issue, but I also think that, when you're dealing with AI and you're dealing with revenue cycle and it all should be an augmented process, right? It should be two-fold, like bad garbage in, garbage out, right? But if there is a meaningful way to communicate those two entities of which the input is in, the AI translates because it's correct, right? The AI can't tell if it's incorrect. It can only go by what's put in the system when it's AI and it's RCM driven. So you have these two efficiency checks, right? And so the thing that I see happening is that AI is not only going to help with a lot of the revenue cycle management, but it also can improve data efficiency that is put in on the front end side when you're dealing with front end staff. So, and I so totally see this happening. And well, I'm just going to say it. It could probably even catch more mistakes that was put in on the front end than it was when it was on the back end, because it's going to not only tell you that it was a mistake, but it was going to tell you that it's wrong, and it's going to fix it so that you don't have those front end errors, because it's going to say, wait a minute, this is wrong. This is the same person. This is the birthday, blah, blah, blah. It's going to fix it. So when you don't have that type of enhancement to augment that process, right, you're going to obviously lose that automation to fix. It should augment what's already done. So half of the process is putting in a system, but then the translation and the correction is going to come from the AI end, and it's going to result in that payment. And many people don't see the return on investment in such a significant process. You're going to gain money when you're. How many times have all of us spent at least on the phone when it's a banking issue, when it's God forbid, a cable issue, right? And you're so mad because you can't get to that person because you got to hit all these different buttons, right? But at the end of the day, the resolve is that you get a person and then they fix it based upon what was put in the system before. So you really have this advantage. And that's why I love Athela so much and its RCM capacity to fix those types of errors. So it's just really wonderful. I love it. And I just can't wait to see how people can grasp onto the processing and how it can affect them and their revenue.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Can change how we have our culture in our offices too. Like I just was curious, like your take on, people that respect the data workflow, what data can tell them, like that's a culture thing too. Like some people are stuck in the past, other people are moving forward. And if they're in the same organization, you can have a huge roadblock if they're not on the same page.
Sure. Yeah, so let's go and kind of break these down because you guys threw a lot at me, which I love. All right, so let's talk just first about the whole appointment process. All right, now again, I'm a male of a certain age, right? I remember when you would call these wonderful people and you would tell them what you wanted for your pizza, and then they would just trust that you had the money when you got right. Uber Eats works a lot better because they collect the money up front. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There was a new law that just went into place. One of the people you connected me with at AOE is now saying, hey, if you overcharge someone, you now have basically a timely amount of time before you got to get that money back before they're going to start charging you $500 per event. And each new day is an event. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
Florida, right?
In Florida. Mm-hmm. And so now how can we take care of that? Well, again, if we're automatically looking at your EOB, if we're looking and trying to check your eligibility before you come in, if we're calculating those copays, right? If one of my kids comes downstairs right now and I'm in the middle of calculating something, I miss a zero, I miss a one, something, then we wind up hurting the patient, right? So from a practical, point of view, some of this is operational efficiency and some of it's to reduce errors. If you think about trying to make an appointment, Maya was talking about being on hold with the cable companies. Look, if I got to make an appointment, sure, I could have someone who answers and goes, yeah, can I put you on hold? Because that person is trying to be a real human and help the person that's directly in front of them. But this is a great place for AI. AI can see your calendar, and AI, as long as I have my calendar, can just make the appointment. It can geolocate and make sure I go to the right location. I've seen situations where people have gone to offices way out to see a doctor and not to realize that he actually has another office or office hours in a different location. That happens all the time. Let alone if you're thinking about answering a question for a bill. There's a pain management center that I know that I've worked with, signed them as a customer. They do over 25 million a year. If you have a question about your bill, you're talking to the CFO. What? I think you have better usage of time for that CFO, but they are running so clean and trying to run so thin. But with again, domain trained AI that understands billing, it can answer questions about your bill. And then the last example that I'll get, and all of these are on our website if you want to go check it out, is say you're preparing for a procedure. Right. There are a couple of things that we all know. One, you need to make sure you have your insurance, make sure that you got your driver's license. If it's a significant procedure, you might need someone to drive you home, but we get caught in the hustle and bustle of things and maybe you forget one of these things. Not only that, AI can give you information about when you need to stop drinking and remind you, and about those kind of care preparation things. And it can answer those questions again, because it's domain trained for what you're trying to do. These are just things that are operational that are on just the front side.
Yeah.
The actual delivery of care, when the doctor actually gets in there, right, we can actually obviously look and translate. And the doctor could be talking to you about your kids and about football and about church. And the AI will filter all of that out, but only take the medically relevant information. And that's what's going to be submitted. And what also happens is as we continue to evolve, there are care nudges that can make sure that a doctor does not close out an encounter until he's recorded a piece of data that might be vital to getting the submission through and actually approved, right? We have auto, posting remittances for your EOBs, all of that stuff. But the other thing, and I want to make sure that we just touch on this, is you can do everything right. But insurance, I typically quote, they underpay between 7 and 11%. That's what I quote, because again, I try to keep it on the low side. But I also am an investor. And so if I go today and I tell you that the stock market is up, and then yet I go and I see that it's Tesla, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, why does that matter? Because the bigger organizations are the ones that are influencing what we actually look at as our averages. So it is nothing for a mom and pop shop to be getting underpaid 20% because you're not examining actually what the fee schedule is. So our AI is going to look, and if your organization billed out $130 and they only paid $125, is your biller going after that $5? Well,
Right.
probably not, because there's a process to go get that $5. And again, the value of that person's time may not warrant it. But like I said, AI works on Saturdays. AI knows their policy schedule. It knows how to log in. It knows how to create the documents to go get that $5. And what does that mean? Over the course of time, incrementally, this adds up. It's the same thing as why my grandmother gave me a piggy bank. Right. But this is the difference between a small mom and pop shop being able to even stay open, a middle tier shop being able to stay private versus having to sell out to some larger organization. But for those multi-million or billion-dollar organizations, this is a new wing. Right. This is an entirely new thing that you could do that's going to allow you. I've got a couple organizations that have started to look at the number of underpayments, and they've diverted the money that they didn't know that they were missing into scholarships.
Wow.
Right. Into ways to provide care for a wider swath of people. So regardless of what you do with it, you've earned every dollar, and AI is really making a difference in making sure that you get paid appropriately.
No, I just love it. And one of my favorite features is actually the appeal stuff. I mean, like, in general, I hated appeals when I was doing them. And like the billers would come to me because they needed the coder to write the appeal, because we had just various billing scenarios when it was like, a mid-level and there was an issue with the tax ID. Like, we're trying to let them know we're all part of the same organization. Like, they are a different provider. Like, there was all these little weird things that we had to write appeal letters for to make sure that the insurance knew this variance, right? Or these two codes are normally not billed together, but we have valid reason for them to have a modifier 59. Like, we had to show them why, right? So I would have to write those, and sometimes they were just very time consuming. And so knowing that we can train technology to give them the right information, they know what to look for, they can pull the data right from the documentation so it makes sense to the payer. We see appeal letters that are like 2 pages long, and they're just really convoluted. The payers are not reading that stuff, guys. They're not reading it. They're just flipping it over. Nope, not today.
That's right.
And I've had actual Medicare contractors tell me that's what happens, like, in that world. Like, I know that that's what happens. They just ignore it because they don't want to read it. It's too long. So it's efficient, well-written appeals that get right to the point, ma'am. Like, that is what you need. And you need automation, or I guess augmentation of technology to help you pull that data out, so the important data gets to the payer, not all the fluff that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah. I mean, and there's so many other things that we're not even talking about, but if you have remote patient monitoring devices, all of these organizations that are on the smaller end are trying to figure out how to do more with less. They don't necessarily know how to benchmark themselves. You don't necessarily know how to benchmark, things that are happening within the system, so we allow you to be able to see, what percentage of your patients obviously take which insurance, but what insurance is doing in terms of denials on a 30, 60, 90. We can show you the trends around CPT codes. Okay. And what does that mean? So now if I'm an operations, the COO or someone who's looking at operations, I can think about, well, if Mondays we're not really seeing that many patients, or we want to up that, maybe we're going to give a discount on something, a discount on a product. Maybe we're going to try to see a certain number of kinds of patients specifically on different days, because we're trying to make our practice more efficient. Until now, we just haven't had that. Right. We've had a separate system for where the EMR sits, from where your actual cash management is, from where your actual RPM is, from where your scribing is, and from where, again, your claims management is. Having that behind one pane of one dashboard and a sort of single unified code base, that's tech talk, means that we get the same experience, but then ultimately we get massive amounts more of efficiency.
Wonderful. I mean, I'm just all for it, because the first time I saw this platform, I was like, even just visually, it's like, I'm a UI.
Oh no, she was talking about UI, and I love UI too. I love UI. I love UI.
She'll be back. She'll be back. I just think that when we think about a lot of the technology and how it enhances, it really should work dually. And there she is, the UI girl.
Really frustrated with my computer today. Anyway, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, Gabe, for all the stuff you're going to have to do behind the scenes. But no, I was just saying, like, the user interface.
Wow.
User interface is definitely not the thing.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. I mean, but I just feel like there's just so much. There she is.
Go ahead, Maya. You take it from here. I'm done.
Oh, girl, stop it. I mean, you guys use a lot of UI terms. I am a little slow. I'm a little older, so I'm not really sure what UI is. So, Cameron, could you please inform the users of what UI is so that we can see how that interfaces with what we're doing today and how this translates to how AI comes into play?
Sure. If you've ever opened a program or a piece of software and been like, what is this? Right? If it's not immediately apparent where you need to click to get something done, if it's not intuitive. A lot of people use Apple products because they just work, but they're also
Mhm.
like human centric, right? Whether or not
Mhm.
it's gestures, tapping, all of that goes into user experience and user interface. So we
Okay,
want to
that's
make
what
it easy.
I
We want
wanted
to
to.
make it easier for you to find the information that you're looking for. It should not take you a definition or like another main book that you got to look and reference just to find out how to do things. And so we built our UI based on talking to coders, based on talking to billers and saying,
Yes.
hey, where would you expect this to be? And where would you expect this to go? So if I click on something, it's not showing me information that's not, it's a too granular or that's not apropos to what thing I'm trying to solve. And also, again, with automation, the idea is that we want it to be set up so that it's easy for you to have transparency. There are so many people out there right now that are using billers and they cannot have any transparency on their own data. And that boggles my mind because if
Yeah.
I told you right now, how much money do you have in your bank account? And then you went to go try to find out and the bank was like, we'll get back to you in 2 weeks. You'd be like, oh, no, you won't. You better tell me how much money I got right now.
Right.
What do
Yeah.
but
Right
we,
Just a-
now.
but we've come to accept that in healthcare as being somehow okay, as if like it's not your money, right?
Right.
And so
yeah.
the transparency is another part of that UI because we want to make it easy. Anytime you build a software program, it could be the best software program in the world, but if it's not easy to use, it's going to die. And a lot of tech companies have gone that way because they had a whole
Mhm.
bunch of people that were engineers that were functionally looking at solving something, but they didn't talk to people like you who actually get on the ground. And so to your point, Maya, we've built something that augments what you're trying to do because it's built on the knowledge and the experience of people who are actually doing it, right? I
Love
think
it.
you shared, Jennifer, way back when it was like medical billing and coders day or something like that. And I thought, what a beautiful thing. I think all doctors should have to take all of their billers out for a nice lunch on that day, right? I don't care what kind of gifts you need to get. Maybe that's the bonus day, whatever. And maybe on that day, you take them down and say, this is what we do. This is how we support your practice because without you, nothing really happens. And so the UI is a part of that as well. It's a recognition, again, of everything that you all do in a methodical way to make sure that we're not making your job harder.
Right.
And oh, go ahead, Jen. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think we've seen lots of companies go under because there's a lot of manual processes that have not been automated. And because the manual process is so stagnated and not fluid, they lose so much money. And we're not talking like tens of thousands, we're talking like millions of dollars because
Sure.
they lack the initiative to find something that quote unquote automates and augments a lot of the processes that could really be enhanced by using antiquated billing systems or billing
That's right.
systems that are no longer valid. And so
That's right.
you have all of this money that's sitting out there in this abyss that's just floating around that nobody is capturing, but everybody sees. And then the company winds up falling under because nobody has enough, either the knowledge, the time, or the effort or the diligence to go after it. That's all I was going to say, Jen.
No, no. I mean, it's great stuff. And like we've just scratched the surface here. We're gonna have Cameron back again because we have so much to talk about.
Yeah.
And we love Athelis. We're in it to win it. Athelis is one of our premier sponsors at the Healthcare Inspired Bone and Joint Summit that's happening on July 17th and 18th. So if you want to talk to Cameron and his team, you want to get deeper into this and get your own assessment taken care of, it's a great time to do it. You can
Is she going?
She just froze.
So Cameron, while we're waiting for Jen to come back, what kind of things can you talk to potential providers about
We have two chats.
the services you provide.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, at the Bone and Joint Summit, we're going to talk to you about, what Athelas is really about and get their hands on this product to kind of see what it's like. And that's what I think is make the difference. People seeing it with their own eyes, with their own data.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we've seen it, and it's absolutely amazing.
And Maya,
Yeah.
you were asking the question. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, what kinds of things can you elaborate or even give the viewers and the listeners about Athalas and their systems that could really be beneficial to their practice, as we're speaking of for data enhancement and augmentation as it relates to AI?
Sure. So, first thing, for anybody that obviously comes to us through you, we will do a free financial health analysis. We'll go back and look at 2 years worth of data, and then we'll compare apples to AI apples so that we can have a real clear view based on some of the things that we've kind of talked about. If you're doing an audit, this can be a great thing to sort of get them prepped for that. Past that, when we think about the way that you're managing cash, working with us, when you hear a lot of these people that have done outsourced billing, and it's some organization that, again, doesn't allow you to see exactly what your cash is doing, what you're trending in terms of your reports. We actually do give you a weekly call to talk about AR, and we have a quarterly business review so that, again, the people who are in the know, who are working with it day to day, we talk to them on a week to week basis, making sure all your cash flows are good. But if the doctor wants to sit in and actually understand the health of the business, that's really where a quarterly business review comes in. In terms of the auto posting, right, making sure, I don't like to salt any particular other competitor, but there is a cloud competitor out there that offers a bundle that has the word one in it. And as part of that, they own part of your bank account. They own part of your bank account so that when payments go in, if for some reason there were a discrepancy where there wasn't a claim that matched that, then they could hold that balance in the bank account and not release it to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's money that you earned, right?
Yeah.
That these are the kinds of antiquated processes that we allow you to really take a look at, to benchmark whether or not it's the providers themselves, the insurance, maybe even some of your front desk staff. A great example is, say Jennifer's really good at selling some of the other products that are, not that are helping in the medical process, but not necessarily, something like a medical device, right? How do we know that she sells better? Well, sometimes we would just look and say, maybe it's just because of her numbers. No, well, we can also benchmark and see, is it that she's recognizing that when a patient comes in for XYZ, now she's thinking of how to also position that? And then the other part of that too goes to payments. And we talked about this a little bit, but if you're under the age of 30, you're way more likely to pay your bill via text message than if you get something in the snail mail. Right? So when are you sending those text messages? Why would you not automate those? If people get paid on the 1st and the 15th, when do you think they should receive that bill? And then if you're trying to set up a payment plan, right? Like, wouldn't it be better if that payment plan is available when they come in? Right. So those kinds of things are the things that I think immediately make a big difference to providers when they're thinking of it. But then also, there's just a whole bunch of other things around operational efficiency, because I can't tell you the number of practices that I've worked with. We do a financial health analysis. The numbers really come back really, really good. And then you actually find out how they happen. And you're like, what you don't realize is you're going to lose a number of your billers because they're having to work on weekends. You're not actually respecting, what their work-life balance is. And it's because you have an expectation of what they're supposed to do to clear a system that was set up to beat them.
Yeah. And I've seen people who have literally come into the office at midnight to run a report, then come home, check it, come back in the morning. And it's insane, some of the manual labor that comes into play, but the level of dedication for the biller, right?
Yeah.
But then they eventually get so burned out that at this point their mind is just gone, and
Right.
they're gone, and you have no one who's taken their place because they ran everything and nobody asked them, or they never took the time to cross train.
Right.
And that's why I think education is such a vital part in this RCM process, in addition to AI, right? To help with the understanding of why it's important, and then to translate that into dollars based upon efficiency.
Yeah, to your point, God forbid somebody like who's really important, like a Maya or a Jennifer, leaves a practice and all of that knowledge leaves with her, right? To your point, that education can mean all of a sudden that you're set back and you have no idea that your AR is going up, and you don't catch it until maybe 90 days later. And the next thing you know, timely filing becomes an issue. It just is a snowball effect. And so we do try to facilitate that, because again, those new rules that are created because Microsoft Copilot's on the back end. It's always looking to make a new rule, and then it's going to check with Maya or Jennifer and say, hey, we noticed that this was happening a bunch. Do you think this should be a new rule? And then we would go ahead and implement that. But then, of course, you always can automatically check anytime that a rule is applied. We show you what was the rule. We show you when it's been applied, and you can always track the number so that you have, again, complete control over what you're doing. Because the woman that comes in at midnight, no one else is there. So no one really sees her struggle. But her kids or her family that sees her, deteriorating, they do. And that's the thing that I think ultimately AI should and could be doing, is to ultimately make it so that you're allowed to be more human.
Mm-hmm. I love it. That's one of my biggest things is I want people to be people to the patients coming in. I don't want them to be stressing out about, co-pays and stuff. I mean, like, that has to be taken care of, but that can be taken care of beforehand, or, it will take taken care of. Be a person to a person. They're suffering. They need help. They need you to be a person. So that's what it can do. And I know we've had such a great conversation. Like, there's only so much time in the day, and I love talking to y'all, but we got to go. And I'm so excited that we get to bring you back, Cameron, and also see you and your team at the Bone and Joint Summit. Next week, guys, we have another special guest, Miss Sanal Patel, which is going to be on our show. And we're going to talk about compliance for behavioral health. So we're excited for that little talk there. Thank you, Cameron, and thank you to the Athelis team for having you come on the show today and tell us about AI and what the great things are happening over at Athelis. So we'll put all your information in our show notes, let everybody know how they can contact you and get their financial health assessment. Thank you once again for joining, guys. Have a great rest of your day and your week, and we'll see you next time.